You're listening to the Brilliant Breakthroughs Podcast with Maggie Magen.
Hi, small business owners. Welcome to Brilliant Breakthroughs Podcast, where we focus on creating brilliant breakthroughs for the small business owner. FYI, this is also the name of the #1 Amazon best-selling book for small business and entrepreneurship. The good news is you can find this book in paperback as well as ebook form. Just so you know which one it is on Amazon, go to Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner, and the subtitle is Fresh Perspectives on Profitability, People, Productivity, and Finding Peace in Your Business. Okay, today we're going to try not to confuse you too much. The first book in the annual series came out in 2017, and it's the blue one that you'll see on Amazon. And we thank you for making us a #1 best-selling author team. And for the first, 55, 56 episodes in this series, podcast series, we interviewed the 2017 authoring team. Now we've switched over to the 2018 authoring team. And that's because the 2018 book is going to release in November 2018. And just so you know which one that is, it has an emerald green cover. So today's conversation is with an author from 2018 book. Now that we have that out of the way, I want to say, hi, rock stars. I'm back again. And my name is Maggie Magen, if you're new to us. And I'm the creator of the Brilliant Breakthroughs annual business book series and #1 best-selling business author. Wow, that's a lot to say. I'm also a master business coach and trainer and known as a small business success influencer. Today, you're in for a treat. We're honored to have our 2018 author, Nancy Clairmont Carr, with us, and she's going to talk about your business's profitability. And here's where everything gets really cool. Nancy, I want to welcome you, but I should probably finish. What should I do? I don't know what I should do. I'm going to welcome you. Welcome, Nancy Clairmont Carr. Welcome.
Hey, Maggie. Thank you for having me. This is so fun to just sit here and visit with you about what we're going to share.
Oh, yeah. And everybody needs to hear this. Of course, that's why you're an author in the book. So everyone, Nancy, and why I said Clairmont Carr is in 2017, we have an author also named Nancy. she's referred to as the App Mama. So they're really different Nancys. So this Nancy in 2018, you have a really cool chapter. It's the second one in 2018's book, and it's titled Higher Consciousness Creates Higher Profitability. And oh my gosh, Nancy, you covered so much ground in this. Well, at the same time, I know and you know that you only scratched the surface on the challenges that small business owners face when it comes to improving their profitability and the myth that arduous work is required to succeed. And boy, we both know that's not true. So thanks for debunking that myth. And I'd like to ask you a question because it probably makes more sense with this being the first episode you're doing throughout this year. To start at the beginning, why don't you tell us what your chapter's about, Nancy?
Thanks, Maggie. I'd love to. It's really about helping the small business owner use the most current and effective strategies and information to optimize profitability and lifestyle in the 21st century. First and foremost, we are people, and then we're business owners. And what I found is that many business owners use outdated practices in growing their business. And what I mean by that is one's based on, as you said, working way too hard and too much, living perhaps with a singular focus of working to the detriment of other areas of their life. Also, maybe using analytical and historical data only to make decisions to move their business forward. And I have found that many of these practices don't capitalize on accessing the most current information they could have, which yields the most creative and optimal solutions for all the challenges that they face. I've seen that, and I believe that owning a business gives us the perfect opportunity to express our purpose and our vision. And we want to create something that really serves the marketplace in a profound way. So it really behooves the small business owner to identify how they can do that.
Oh, I want to stop you right there. I know you're going to have something more to say, but I want to have our listeners recap this for a moment, because you said something powerful, and it was about profitability and lifestyle. And talking about profitability is where we're going to be going, and I know that because you have a beautiful strategy and technique to help people improve their profitability considerably, as well as lifestyle. And we're not necessarily talking what is being dubbed a lifestyle business today, but that we have a better lifestyle, better quality of life,
Exactly.
because we are small business owners. And
So true.
and I love that, because you said we're first people. and that deserves a pause right there. Remember, and I talk often about we're human beings. We're not human doings, yet we are doing human doing really well and not human being well at all.
Right.
And that's where a lot of our stress is. And your chapter really leads into that a lot. So I just wanted to pause for a moment to help everybody remember, even though we're talking about profitability, we are also talking about you as a person. And you're going to see that this overlaps. And that's one of the really beautiful things about what Nancy's expertise brings forward, is she touches on all four of the pillars with what she provides, the performance pillars that we discuss in the book. So sorry to interrupt you, but I'm so not.
No, I was just reflecting that that's why I was excited about collaborating with you on this, Maggie, is because you have that philosophy and you see the value of what I'm trying to do with small businesses and the strategy that I'm using. So what I have found, and I mean, this is not new, but because I guess what we learn ourselves is what we then go out to change when we feel like we've figured it out for ourselves and our life is better.
Right.
And what happens is we have these fears, limiting beliefs that hold us back from stepping into our greatest potential as a person and a business owner. So I think it's really important to reflect on what are some of those driving beliefs that we have that govern our thinking and our behavior, to say, well, maybe that's not allowing us to create from the most expansive viewpoint. And so as we grow and adjust those beliefs and remove some of those fears, and our business grows. And so that's where I focus with people. It's not just a mindset game, it's really a whole transformation of how we think, how we access information, how we tap into our highest potential creativity. And that's really what I do with people when I work with them. And so that really leads into how I work with people, and that is I develop a higher consciousness with them, and I help them access this intuition and guidance that provides a more expansive thinking, which ultimately saves time, money, and increases growth in a way that business owners had no idea was possible. And that's what I discovered. And so, we might think that, well, if we just think hard and get the best brains in, et cetera, but quite frankly, when we just use our brains, all we're accessing is historical data. So when we can go beyond that and access this intuition that we really have access to, and that's where the power comes, we then have an opportunity to make just such a more profound contribution. So there's a growing science around the whole neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and how we can change our patterns of thinking and our energy fields, and how we can access our intuitive mind and our higher powers. And that helps us move through life differently. So we're not necessarily stuck with what we're born with, which is great. Or maybe what we're brought up with. And not that those are bad, but it's only what our parents knew. It's only what our society at the time knew.
Yes.
And so that's why this is so exciting to me, is it's a fascinating movement, this whole neuroplasticity, brain development that supports our human potential at the very highest level. So to me, that's what's so exciting. And it really allows businesses to move forward with growing it with ease and grace, more profitably. And it not only impacts them, but when you start thinking differently and acting differently and approaching problem solving differently, you impact obviously your whole organization, and the people that you interact with inside and outside of that organization. So for me, small business owners have an opportunity to become more aligned with their purpose, develop a more holistic approach to running their business in life, and contribute at a much larger level and making a much more profound impact on society. So that's really what my chapter is about.
I love that. Okay, so and that's all it's about. What is really fascinating about your chapter is it's very practical, and then you bring in a good amount of science to validate what you're saying, and I appreciate that. And I know this is only the first of like 5 or 6 episodes we're going to do here, and we'll start to unpack your chapter more over the next ones because it's power packed. There's no doubt about it. But I want to pull back because sometimes people don't understand a phrase that you're saying, and it's actually in your title, which is higher consciousness. And you started to touch on it. Can you give us a couple other phrases that we may know higher consciousness as?
Yes, I'm happy to. Higher consciousness defines our ability to access information that becomes available when you start listening to your intuition and when you're open to receiving. Some people call it intuitive hits, some people feel it in their gut. You know, for me, when I talk about higher consciousness, it's really being guided by a higher power to think beyond what I already knew. And there's infinite information out there that if we just go with what we already knew and argue for the old, we aren't going to get the most optimal solutions that are current. They're in the moment information that's out in the universe. So higher consciousness is being open to receiving that information and developing mindset practices and really an energy field within us that brings that in naturally, and that naturally allows us to say, oh, just a minute, I'm receiving information that's kind of new to me. So it's an access to intuitive information that we have to pay attention to. And so we need to train ourselves to do that. And we need to change, I sometimes call it an energetic straitjacket that keeps us performing in an old pattern.
I love that. I love your definition. By the way, on every one of our authors has a glossary at the end of their chapter, and Nancy filled hers up with all sorts of great definitions. So you'll appreciate this shorter concept of defining higher consciousness. One of the ways I was introduced to it, and a lot of people seem to understand it, is the phrase infinite intelligence. And you came really close to saying that. So it's allowing us to move beyond, like you said, our own straitjacket, our own mind, our own thoughts, which are historical, like you had said earlier, to expand into a different way of thinking and being. And it's guidance is the end of the story. And sometimes we forget that when we're moving through our day-to-day tactics and survival mode.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because what I've found in my own life and business practices is I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and then I was in the corporate world before that, and you get in the habit of rush, do, And we don't take time out to sit back, reflect, and absorb that infinite intelligence and that higher power and ability, the all-knowing, and the information that's available to us because we're so rushed. And
Right.
that actually brings me to another point of kind of what I went through and realized I had to change that old lifestyle, or I probably wasn't going to live to, pursue my dreams. It was
Right.
very critical. I reached a critical point in my career after being in the corporate world for 15 years, and I made a decision to leave that world. And it was a conscious decision, one of the most important ones I made, to change my mindset, to change my environment, and to change my thinking. And so that really allowed me then to pursue what could make it better, what could make me not so rushed, what could make me not so crazy. And that's how I came across all these wonderful ideas just through study and pursuit. And it made a world of difference, a life-changing difference for me. And it made me realize there's another way to run a profitable business without going crazy physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and in every way. And
Right.
that's what I want to bring to the small business owner. There is another way that you might just not know about yet. And it will change, it will rock your life. It will blow you away, as I've heard recently. And so that's why I get so excited about it. Maybe we don't have to have our nose to the grindstone 100% of the time. Maybe we can take breaks. The research shows that you need to create that creative time. You need to get out in the fresh air. You need to do what I call create whole body health. And where you're serving your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual side, so that you get new juice to move on, and more creativity, and an ability to see a bigger picture and bring in that infinite intelligence. But when we are working way too hard and not taking that time for self-care, we never reach that. It's very, very difficult to do it naturally unless you're creating that structure for yourself. I probably went into a little bit more about this. Is actually why I think it's so important for small business owners to understand this. They don't have to operate the way they used to. And
Well, I agree with you on that, Nancy. And I was waiting to say, well, why is understanding this so important for the small business owner? And I think we've already dove into it on a lot of different levels. And I just want to pause you for a moment again to say, small business owners, this stuff matters. Taking what I call productive breaks, and if you've been following my blogs for the years, you will know that is a phrase that I use. Productive breaks matter, and it allows you to come in and be much more effective and efficient. That's what Nancy's saying, and she's talking about it from a different lens than what I do. But a fact is a fact. It doesn't matter which lens we're looking through and the application of it. Truth transcends. And I think that's important for us to remember is when we're talking about this, it impacts our personal and our professional lives in all facets. And small business owners, you are so much more than your business.
exactly. Exclamation point. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I know. I want to stop like everything right there, but this is yours. You're showcasing you, but it's validating what you're saying. So this is important stuff. What else? Why else is this important, Nancy?
Well, what the research does show everything you just said, and that when I started to learn all about that, it just opened up a whole new world that validated I'm on the right track here. I want to preserve my health. I have a lot more I want to pursue. I have a lot of change I want to create in the world and influence. And you said something that I wanted to kind of go back to. It matters, and we matter, and we want to matter. We want to matter. We want to contribute at a significant level.
Right.
Every business owner and actually every person wants to matter. And so that's what this strategy and these practices allow us to do. Is it allows us to develop all the areas of our life that help us rise to a level where we contribute so much more, we matter so much more to the world, to the people around us, to our businesses. And you want your business to serve at the highest possible level. And that's what this is really all about. So learning where you can access that creativity, where your energy comes from, is what I help people do, and what this chapter tells you more about. It tells you the strategies and the practices. So, you could take the chapter and run with it. You could take the chapter and go out and hire some guidance with it. You could do a lot of things with the information in this chapter and in this book. And so I'm all about self-help. I'm all about helping people move forward to their highest possible level, quite honestly. And one of the key things that allows us to do that is this concept of self-care. And until we take on the belief and the actual habits of creating self-care for ourselves, we're never going to rise to that optimal level, because we aren't going to do what Maggie says. We're not going to take the time for those productive breaks. We aren't going to take the time to maybe have a power 5 minutes or a power hour in the morning, whatever works best for you, and become mindful enough to access what we need to rise to that highest level. So self-care is something I discuss at length in the book. This is something I wanted to point out. Industry leaders, in all industries, are focusing on now what they're doing in their organizations to reach this outcome. And so this is not like old hat. This is relatively new in terms of the practice in the industry. There's a fellow that actually, I just got an email with his information, and he says intuition is going to become the most important aspect of business decision making, in a certain number of years. And I'm saying, why not do it now? Why not focus in on how to access that intuition now, so that you're ahead of the game and that you're taking care of yourself now and your business to produce at the highest possible level, and still feel healthy at the end of the day.
Right. And as you and I have discussed, this is not new.
The concept is not new.
No. It going mainstream is, because if we look at some of the great leaders of their organizations, as well as great humanitarians, we see that they have always functioned from these strategies and techniques. Always.
Exactly.
So now it's time where everybody's saying, okay, there has to be something more. And there is, but it's always been with us. We've just tucked it aside because we focus on the doing instead of the being. And there is a big difference there. So I want to let everyone know this is, in one aspect, and this is going to sound funny, you're going to talk out of both sides of our face here in a moment, it's cutting edge, and it's not, because it's proven for centuries.
Well, that's really true, Maggie. And, you asked me at one point, why did I want to write this information? Why did I want to write about this right now? And I think it's such a timely topic. It's a concept whose time has come to make it mainstream and to make it available to everybody and not keep it a secret. So that everybody can access how to live a more holistic lifestyle and be more present to what they're doing, and really live up to their potential. The climate is right. The business climate has changed a lot over the last 25 years with these different, as I say, neuroscience and all of the neuroplasticity and what we can do with our mind. It's changed how people are functioning. And so I'm really capitalizing on the timing of these influences on individuals' desire to live a more purposeful life, to contribute in a more purposeful way through their business, and to contribute at a higher level, to tap into their creativity, and ultimately to have more freedom and express themselves more profoundly through their work. And I think business owners are in a perfect position to influence that change now. And they have an opportunity to create the kind of environment that reflects what's important to them. So it's really exciting to me to share it.
Okay, listeners, so here it is. We just went through what Nancy's chapter is about, why it's so important to you as a small business owner, and then out of everything that Nancy knows, because she has a really nice background, why she decided to write about this. And it's because it's timely, most important, and it is time for all of us to become masters at this. Thank you. So listeners, here's how you can learn more and engage more with author Nancy Clairmont Carr. Start by reading Chapter 2 in the book, Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. Oh, Chapter 2, Volume 2. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. And remember that book, 2018, is the emerald green cover. And gift your business's performance by accepting the invitation Nancy has at the bottom of her author page. So at the end of her chapter, you'll see an author page, and she has a really cool invitation there for you. Plus, there's all sorts of different social media handles for you to connect with Kelly. Oh my gosh. Oh, pardon me, Nancy. Nancy, that would be Nancy. Okay, so here's something really cool you can do right now. You can go to your app store, type in Brilliant Biz Book, all one word, and then scroll down to Nancy Clairmont Carr's name. And if you want to ask her a question, you can type in a question right there. It'll go right to her, and she'll respond back, won't you?
Absolutely. I'm vigilant about my email.
Okay, cool. So that's an extra bonus for everybody who's listening today. And Nancy, oh my gosh, we would like to thank you for your wisdom sharing here today.
Thank you, Maggie. I'm honored to be participating in the book and just to have a chance to speak out to the small business owners. So thank you.
Very cool. And oh man, we just began to unpack your chapter. So there's much more to come, and we invite listeners to continue to listen to all of the podcast episodes and follow Nancy's. If this is what's floating your boat, we got more coming throughout the next year. So listeners, we appreciate you listening to the Brilliant Breakthroughs podcast, where you learn how to create more brilliant breakthroughs for your small business. Until next week, shine brightly.